Hello, and welcome to Eppendorf Lab Channel, your home for experts and knowledge live. I'm Matthew Yurkevich, a Global Marketing Manager for Eppendorf SE, and your moderator today here in Hamburg, Germany. We're all very excited to have you joining us for the latest webinar on digitalization, entitled Limitless Customization with an Open Ecosystem. In this webinar, we will discuss how an electronic lab notebook in an open ecosystem offers full customization and third-party integrations, allowing you to have more freedom in adapting the ELN to the needs of your lab. As part of this, learn about eLab Next integrated lab management platform. I'm excited to welcome our expert presenter, Gabriela Sanchez, Account Manager for eLab Next here in Germany. Hello, Gabriela. It's great to have you here today. How are you?
Hello, Matthew. Thanks for having me.
Now, before Gabriela gets started, I would like to take a moment to direct your attention to the interactive portion of Eppendorf Lab Channel. If you look directly below the video frame, you will see a question submission form. Feel free to use the form for any comments, especially if they are user-specific, but we will get back to you via email and provided after the webinar concludes. After the presentation is completed, we will have a Q&A period. You can also message us for information about demos and more in-depth conversations. Now, without further ado, I'd like to hand over the reins to Gabriela for her presentation and demonstration. Gabriela, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Matthew, for the introduction. I'm happy to be here, and welcome everyone for the presentation, or today's presentation. The topic for today, as Matthew already said, is limitless customizations with an open ecosystem and how this will help you future-proof your digital lab. So we can get started. So a little information about myself. As Matthew already said, I'm an account manager for the DACH region at eLab Next. I have a background in biotechnology. I did my bachelor's and my master's in medical biotechnology in Berlin, and I worked in different labs focusing on cancer biology before I decided to change to sales. So I worked in another company for a couple of years, and I've been with eLab Next since approximately 2 years, helping customers adapt their lab to a more digital process and implement a digital lab solution into their work. So the agenda for today, we're going to start by learning the difference between an open source from an open ecosystem. Then we'll discuss shortly the advantages of an open ecosystem in life science and how this reflects in your research, which advantages you can find there in the lab and in your daily work. Then we will continue to mention a couple of key characteristics that will help you select the best open ecosystem lab solution for you. And finally, I will introduce eLab Next as an open ecosystem, and we will talk a little bit about the different applications that we offer and what we as a service provider can offer you to your lab and to help you digitalize your work in the lab as well. So we can get started. First of all, in order to understand what an open ecosystem is, we first need to discuss what a closed source and an open source software is. So in general, in software, you will often hear these words, closed source, open source. What this is referring to is the availability of the original source code and the freedom surrounding the use of this code. So in the diagram here on the screen, we see how a closed source software works. So in this case, closed source code already says it in the name. The source code is not available to the public, which means that only the programmers of the software can interact with the source code, and the source code is always written in one language and is then distributed to all users. So how is this of advantage? What are the characteristics of a closed source? The first one you can see on the right, we are rating flexibility. As I said, the source code here is closed. No one has access to it, which means that no one can make changes to the software as well. So this makes it less flexible. So if a user wants to change something or wants to add an additional functionality, in this case, it's not really possible. So unless, the service provider does it. So the flexibility here is very low, or tends to be very low. On the other hand, because no one has access to it, it makes it very hard for hackers to access the source code, which also means that the security is very high. And in a closed source software, usually you also have a support team, so a dedicated support team, people that are dedicated to support the users, to provide help if needed. So in this case, if you need any help, you will get it. So support is also very high rated, as is usability. So usability, here we're talking about user friendly, how easy it is to understand what I'm doing and to follow the software without actually having 100,000 trainings to know how I need to use it. So in this kind of softwares, where the closed source softwares, you also have a dedicated team who is working behind the usability of the software, making it user friendly, making it as easy as possible for everyone to understand, and not only focusing on one single group of people to make it clear, but everyone really. So this is also very highly rated in this case. So if we now compare this to a open source software, again, I think it's already explained by the name. Open source, it means the source code is publicly accessible. Anyone can see it, anyone can modify it, and then the code is distributed. So flexibility in this case is very high. Anyone can add applications, also change a little bit of how the software works, or maybe add an additional functionality, an extra button, and so on, which makes flexibility high. But on the other hand, as we saw before, security in this case is very low, since this also makes it very easy, or more easy, for hackers to access the source code. And for example, it could be a weak spot for a cyber attack. The other point that we discussed previously as well, here, support is usually not that high, just because anyone can change the software, anyone can do changes here. So it's not really easy to keep track of all of this. And therefore, it's not very easy to provide support to anyone or everyone finding an issue with the software. And usability is also not that great, just because when someone is programming additional functionalities that think, this is something that will help me, that I think it's going to be best the way that I work, that doesn't really mean that everyone else will find it easy or understandable. So in this case, there's usually no team of people dedicated to making the software user friendly, but rather like making the software easy to understand for themselves. So in this case, usability, it's not that high rated. So when we compare both of these scenarios, so we have learned open source and closed source softwares. We know that flexibility is high on an open source software, low on a closed source software. We also see a difference in security, support as well, and the usability is also very different here. So now, why is this important, and what does an open ecosystem mean? So at eLabNext, we have an open ecosystem, which means that we keep our closed source foundation, but we add an extra layer on top, which allows users to include third-party integrations, develop own add-ons, or combine different items into their software to customize it into their workflow and necessities. Here on the diagram on the right, on the top, we can see the closed source part of our software. So one language, secure, but less flexible. And then in the rectangle below, we see the extra added layer we have created, which would represent our open ecosystem. So by adding this extra layer, we allow our users to access parts of the source code of eLabNext to extend functionalities, add new features, or integrate third-party softwares. In conclusion, or summarizing it, an open ecosystem is the ideal combination of the flexibility of an open source software, which allows users to personalize their software to fit exactly to their workflow without any limitations, and the quality of a closed source software, which ensures security, support, and usability. So, why is an open ecosystem of advantage in life science? Or how is this going to help your work? By using an open ecosystem, you can have a more usable, secure, and customizable ELN that helps future-proof your lab by allowing you to change the software in accordance to how your workflow will change over time. How can an open ecosystem guarantee high security and usability? As a part of the closed source part of the software, there is a team of different product specialists dedicated to work on the development, support, security, and many other aspects of the software. This means that there will be regular updating, constant monitoring of the software, as well as several security measures put in place to ensure the safety of your data. In addition to this, market research is also done to learn about potential implementations and to receive customer feedback. So how can the flexibility of an open ecosystem be an advantage for your research? Instead of being restricted to what is provided by your systems vendors or your system provider, you can also personalize your ELN depending on what is needed for your lab. So if you are dependent on what your vendor offers, you will be obligated to pay for new features or tools which your lab might actually not need on a daily basis or actually not need at all. With the flexibility that comes with an open ecosystem, you can stick to your budget while incorporating the exact software that you need for the kind of research that you are doing. So personalizing it and adding new features that are relevant to you and not really adding the ones that are not. So with an open ecosystem, you can also future-proof your lab. How is this possible? Over time, your organization, or in general, every organization, will not stay the same. It will grow, it will shift, it will change, and so will the needs and the wants of your researchers. With an open ecosystem, you can ensure that your lab can integrate any new tools available in the future. Additionally, if your organization has an own development team, you will always have the option to create and build your own integrations into the software. So this basically allows you to further modify and personalize the software in the future when new tools become available. New technology will also appear that you might find relevant in a couple of years. It will give you that possibility to say, okay, I'm buying the software now, but I'm staying open for a new addition to my workflow in a couple of years when it becomes available. So how can you select the best lab solution for your lab? Whether or not a system has an open ecosystem is not really clear. So there are a couple of steps that you can follow so you can be sure that what you're choosing can deliver an open ecosystem. So first of all, you need to ask for the availability of APIs and software development kits, which means that this is basically the extra layer that allows you to modify the software according to your need. Additionally to this, there is no better way to understand the product and to know that this is something that you can use for yourself as to try it. So ask for a demo and make sure that you get the test or the trial version of the software. And as well, ask that the APIs can be tested during this trial period so that you know that it's working for you and that it's going to help you connect the tools that you want to the software. So this is the best way of getting a clear understanding of the usability of the software and find out if it can actually support the demands and the needs that your lab has. Additionally, as we all know, there's no such thing as a stupid question. So ask questions all the time. If you realize that the support team or that your account manager is not really responsive to the questions that you are having, or you're not really getting the answers that you need, or not an answer at all, then you already will have an idea of the kind of support that you will get when you're a customer. And I think when working with software, this is something that is very important, the level of support that you're getting, because there's always going to be an issue maybe, or something that you don't understand, or someone might not be able to see something, or you're having trouble with an experiment. So you need to have a great support team behind you and know that there's going to be someone helping you if you need the help. So this is also something that I recommend testing. And finally, security is also very important. So you can make sure that this is also a priority for the company by asking for an ISO certification. The ISO certification is not something that the web service provider is doing, but actually the whole company. So it's a longer and dedicated process that companies go through, which also shows dedication to you as users, that the company wants to make sure that your data is safe. So the certification that you need to ask for is the ISO 27001, but I will show it in a later slide So for you to know which one. So we know that every lab has its own specific workflows and that there are always different features that are important for some labs, but maybe not so much for others. So for this reason, we offer our customers the possibility to further personalize their ELN by integrating or linking third-party software applications using eLab Journal APIs. So this is an application programming interface. The APIs allows you to retrieve data from eLab Journal to process in third-party applications or write data generated by other software systems to eLab Journal. So it works basically as a communicator between two softwares, and as I said before, can be tested also during the trial. If you're interested, you can also test this. In addition to this, we also offer our users the possibility to extend, integrate, or customize any of eLab Journal's features by using our software development kits. The SDKs, or software development kits, are tools and programs that developers can use to create applications. We call them add-ons. So your team can customize eLab Journal to meet the exact needs of your lab. So you can maybe, for example, add new features or create new buttons or maybe combine functions and many more options in order to make it more tailored to what you're looking for, or to make it more tailored to fit the needs that you have for your specific workflows. The APIs used together with the SDKs will allow your team to customize and extend the functionality of eLab Journal depending on the needs of your lab. So our ecosystem is basically our marketplace. It's called the eLab Marketplace, and it's conveniently available in the eLab Next platform, which allows you to easily install or deinstall add-ons depending if you need them or not. Most of our add-ons are available for free, meaning that you don't need to spend extra money to integrate the tools that you already have. So here is an example of some of the things we offer and how they look. You basically just need to go to the marketplace, install whatever is it that you think you might need, and then the extra button or the extra option in our features will appear. But if you think you don't need it, then you just don't install it. And as I mentioned, most of these are for free, so you don't even need to pay extra. So now we're going to go into this and talk a little bit more about how eLab is an open ecosystem and what are the add-ons that we offer. So this is a list of our most popular add-ons and how we separate this by category. So we have a lot of add-ons that are for our inventory, which we put in the category of biobanking. This, for example, allows you barcoding, lineage of samples, and importing of samples, but we will go into detail in all of this in the next few slides. We have a couple of add-ons for productivity and as well for reporting and utility. So I will not go through all of our add-ons, of course, that would be too long, but I will go through the most popular ones. And if you have any questions, we can discuss it in the end. So first of all, one of the first questions that we get asked, and this is a fair question because everyone that wants to use or implement a digital tool in their lab says, okay, I want to go the extra mile, I want to do the work, but how do I get my samples that I already have in my lab into this digital tool? So we offer different options for importing samples. I'm showing you just the ones that we have as an add-on. That will allow you as users to do it by yourself. There's additional ways to import samples from the backend of the software, but let's talk about the add-ons. So the first one that you see on the left is the sample batch import. This is an add-on that when you install it, you have the possibility to import up to 200 samples from Excel tables, and it will take them directly into eLab. The add-on on the right is our connection with the Eppendorf Rack Scan. So this is a scanner that you can install. Of course, you purchase and then you can install and connect it with eLab Journal. And this way you can scan whole racks of samples, and all of this will be automatically imported into eLab. The compartment will be automatically created. And as you can see in the picture here, you have a nice overview of where your vials are, are. And if you go into each sample, you will also see the information of the samples in there. So for sample lineage and sample parent, this is also something that is important or relevant, and one of the main reasons why people want to change into a digital tool for managing information in the lab is what happened to my sample? Where did my sample go? Or where was the sample before I got it? This is really relevant if you're working on a publication. You need to know that the cells that you're using or the sample that you're using is coming from a trusted source, or in general, just knowing how the history of that sample will look like or has looked like. So in this case, we have two possibilities, sample parent and sample lineage. Sample parent allows you to always keep track of the parent of a sample and saying, okay, I'm going to expand this lineage, for example, this cell line, for example. So I want to keep track who the parent was. And I will always have a link in my inventory, as you can see in the picture. It says, it's a primary cell, and then I can see the parent sample where it came from. And the lineage is basically an overview of the whole history of that sample. So I can see which one was the very first vial, and then from that one, which one came after, and then from that one, how many aliquots, for example, I made, and so on. So you always have a nice overview of the history of your sample. Integration with Office. So this is one of the add-ons that has an additional cost in our software, but you can also test it for free during the 30-day free trial. So this is an integration with Office within the experiment sections of eLab Journal. It allows you to create Excel sheets. You can also create PowerPoint presentations or Word files, and you can work on them, do analysis of data. And as you can see here, you will have a history of the section. In the picture on the right, there's the history, and you see I have the different versions that I worked on this document. I can see who changed it and when was the last change made, and I can always return to the previous version if I wanted. So if you click on all of the versions, you will see how the document changed over time. And if needed, if someone maybe accidentally changed something that you didn't want to change, you can just go back and then redo the work. So in addition to the integration to Office, this is our alternative, which is called eLab Web Edit. This is a software that you need to install in your computer, and it allows you to integrate or to connect third-party software documents into your experiment. So this would be the free version to use Office. What it does is that, as an example, if I would open a section in my experiment of files and I have installed eLab Web Edit in my computer, I could say, okay, I want to connect or link to my experiment an Excel file as an example, and say, I want to see, all the changes that happen here, everything that is done. I wanted to do it through eLab, so it's connected to my experiment. So eLab Web Edit allows me to edit the file from my software. It downloads it, opens it in Excel, for example, then I can do my changes, and when I save it, it uploads it back again. So all of the changes that I did, everything that was changed is already saved in the link that I have in my experiment, and I can also see a version history. So I see all of the versions that have been changed, and if needed, I can download a previous version to compare. So we also have added recently more add-ons for chemistry. So we have Marvin.js, which allows you to draw chemical structures within an experiment, also to include them in the samples. Marvin.js is the second add-on that has an additional cost in the software. These are the two add-ons for the moment that have an additional cost. Everything else is for free. And Chemsys is an extension of Marvin.js, basically. So you need to have Marvin.js in order to also use Chemsys, which extends the functionalities of Marvin.js by also allowing you to create reactions in an experiment with a table that calculates all of the values automatically. And you can include, as I said, the structure in the inventory, and there's also a search option for all of the molecules that you have. Chemsys at the moment is in the beta version, so it's not yet finalized, can be tested for free if you have a dedicated installation. This is also one of the projects that we took on similar to Chemisys. It's called Clonisys, and it's a tool to extend functionalities for molecular biology. It's also in the beta phase, so can also be tested for free for the moment. This is also available in the cloud. So then monitoring and tracking of equipment. We offer the possibility to integrate sensors into the software in order for you to track the temperature over time of your storage units. For this, we have an integration or add-ons with Elemental Machines, as well as with Ependor Visionize Sense. Both of these tools will allow you to integrate their software into eLab so that you can have, as you can see in the picture on the left, an overview of the temperature at all times, and also over time, the picture on the right, when you go to the specific freezer, you can see how is the history of the temperature, how was it, maybe if I'm interested to know over the last week, has it been constant or there was like an interruption or something. For equipment management, we also have an integration with Cluster Market. There's a lot of people that use Cluster Market already for managing their equipment, sharing equipment. So you can integrate it with eLab Next or eLab Journal. And in this case, there will be an automatic synchronization between the equipment that you have in eLab and the equipment that you have in Cluster Market. So you can have a complete overview of the equipment that you have in the lab. Finally, of course, it's also very important for us to give the possibilities to our customers to organize the lab as much as possible. And this, of course, is only possible by having readable writing. I know that that was an issue for me when I was in the lab, finding a sample that I could read what was written on the epi or on the vial. So we have integration with printers. One of them is Fluix. You can integrate the Fluix printers with eLab, and we also have integrations with CPL printers. So this is several printers that recognize the CPL language can be integrated. You can design your labels, just print them, add them to your vial, and when you scan this QR code, for example, with your phone, we have a mobile app, you can access the information of your samples or of your freezers or compartments. So then we come to the end. So in general, we are digital lab specialists. We try to make all of our account managers as well as customer success managers have come from life science background. So we all have a knowledge of what it is to work in the lab, what it is to need to find samples, to keep your lab notebooks updated and share protocols. And we want this in order for our customers to feel understood so that you can also, or we can also provide you with the right solution because we understand what you're going through. What I've mentioned before, security. So eLab Next is ISO 27001 certified. This is the certification that I explained in the beginning, and what I highly recommend for you to ask if you're trying other softwares. This is a very high certificate for security information, and as I said, it's a certification that the company goes through, not the web service provider, so not the server provider, but the company itself. Okay, so with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. I thank you all for your time, and yes.
Thank you, Gabriela. That was very informative and a unique presentation on open source and open ecosystems. We do have a couple questions for you. The first one would be, what is the process to start using eLab SDK?
Yes. So in order to start using the eLab SDKs, it's very easy. So you actually just need to contact us or contact our support, and we can provide you with an account, with a developer account and access to our sandbox so that you can start testing the SDK, so the software development kit. This is completely for free, can also be done during the trial or when you're already a customer. And as I said, you don't need to pay anything extra.
You mentioned the trial. Do you offer a trial with limited functions?
No, we offer a trial, 30-day free trial, yes, and it's not with limited functions, so it's completely the product that you will buy in the end. I think this is very important because many of software providers offer a trial, but they offer it with, for example, not all of the functions are available, or just some of the things that you can do, you can test. And I think, as I mentioned in the presentation, it's so relevant and so important that you test the software as much as you can to see that it's a good fit for you, that it will actually make your life easier and not harder. So we do offer the trial. It's not limited. You actually get the same version that you will buy in the end.
Very cool. Now, there's one more slightly more technical question. Which hosting possibilities do you offer?
So we offer 3 different options. The first one would be the shared cloud, where many customers are located in the same server. Of course, no one has access to your data. And the second option would be a private cloud. That would mean a server just for you, but also hosted in the cloud. And the third one is an on-premise installation, where we install the software in a server that you provide in the location of your company or your institute.
Well, that was a lot of information. And that combined with your presentation, there's a lot to take in. So thank you very much, Gabrielle, for so much. It was great to learn so much about digitalization and the sample journey in the modern lab.
Thank you, Matthew. I was happy to be here, and I'm happy that you enjoyed the presentation.
Now, to learn more about eLab Next and the Eppendorf digitalization future, visit elabnext.com. You can use the links on the page below or the contact form to get in touch for a demo. Find out how to elevate your research with a digital lab solution to improve the quality of your life science study, optimize your workflow, and increase productivity. Register now for your 30-day free trial at elabnext.com. And thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you at our next broadcast on November 8th, entitled Eppendorf and eLab Next, Driving Digitalization in Life Science and Biotech Research. Our expert presenters will discuss the growing and evolving field of laboratory digitalization and the many solutions eLab Next and Eppendorf can bring to your lab. You can go to eppendorf.com/lab channel to save the date in your calendar. If you missed out on our event or any of our previous events, you can view all of them on demand at eppendorf.com/lab channel. Watch them all on your own time and use the links to contact the experts with any questions, comments, or reactions. On behalf of Gabriella and everyone else here at Eppendorf Lab Channel, thank you for taking the time to join us. And until we see you again, stay safe and have a wonderful day.